Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Leadership Trail Mix. This is our last episode in February 2025, and I can't let the month end without talking about Black History Month. As a person of color, I feel so represented by this month. The fourth episode of Leadership Trail Mix in 2024, called Asking and Sharing, was my tribute to it then, and I'm glad to pay tribute to it now, and honestly hope to be able to do it every February moving forward. I truly believe we've made progress as a society, but we still have a long way to go. The playfield is far from plain. Generational traumas is still present, and so are racism and oppressing systems. For starters, I'd like to talk about this fascinating thing called identity. And I'm going to actually start asking you, what are your identities? What are the things that identify you? The pieces of you that inevitably are part of the answer to the question, can you please introduce yourself? Or can you describe yourself? I encourage you to do this exercise at some point soon. It's a powerful one. If you want to hit pause and do it now, please be my guest. I promise I'm not going anywhere. If you decide to stay, quick disclaimer. I will share with you what I wrote down, and will mention a few things that may impact your answers later, but that will not ruin the exercise for you. Okay, your choice. Blue pill, hit pause and come back when you're ready. Red pill, we keep going. 3, 2, 1. If you're still here, let's go. If you're returning after a pause, welcome back. What I love about this exercise is that it not only sheds light on who we are, but also on what matters to us. It's almost like if I were to hand this piece of paper I have with my identities right now to an actor willing to play the role of a future teller without me knowing, I'd probably believe it. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the point, right? Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, said, when Peter talks about Paul, I know more about Peter than I know about Paul. It makes sense, right? When I tell a story, when I share my opinion about someone or something, it is telling a lot about how I see the world. Here, it's not different. Our identities will tell what matters to us. Let's look at it in a very practical way. I will be our guinea pig. Here is my answer to the question, can you please introduce yourself? Or can you please describe yourself? I am a gay man, a person of color, and an introvert. I am Brazilian, born and raised in Rio, and moved to the US 6 years ago. I live in Denver with my husband, Jim. My mom, my dad, my sister, and my nephew are in Brazil, and I miss them dearly. I'm a psychologist by trade, and I've always worked in HR. It's been almost 20 years. I love my job because it allows me to bring my purpose in life to light every day. I also love traveling. I'm a foodie, and I love music. Think for a moment. What conclusions about what matters to me can you draw from this quick intro? Well, when I wrote it without thinking much and going back and rereading it now, here are a few observations. My sexual and racial identities matter to me. I am proud of my roots. People come before things in my priorities, but things still matter. Thinking about my description, can you see all that? What is interesting, and maybe you have the same experience, is that one could think that the parts of me that come more naturally are the easy ones, the ones I didn't have to struggle with. Well, quite the contrary, actually. The parts that I mentioned first were the ones I struggled with the most, and it's almost like having them at the top of the list is an act of resistance. A reminder of how much I walked to get here, a celebration of the wounds I got along the way. There is, however, this one thing called social location, which is different from identity. AI defines it as a combination of factors that define a person's position in society. It includes a person's race, gender, class, sexuality, and other attributes. Social location shapes how people experience power and privilege and how they interact with others. AI goes ahead and asks the question, why consider social location? And of course, AI answered by saying, understanding your social location can help you reflect on how your identity intersects with others, consider how your identity impacts your actions and perceptions, be more aware of how you may reinforce systems of oppression, Be more inclusive and equitable in your interactions with others. Thanks, AI. We'll take it from here. What I love about the concept of social identity is that it acknowledges the multifaceted nature of being human. We are not a single thing. We are all like onions with many layers. We are complex beings, not only in the way our body works, but in the way our identities intersect and shape how we see the world and how the world sees us. And one event may change our lives in a way that will make our experience more similar than different from people who have very different identities from ours. Here's a personal example. When I moved to the US, I felt like my experience as an immigrant was very unique to those moving from other countries into this one. But over time, and by talking to people, I came to understand that most of the people I know don't live in the place they were born. Even if they do live where they were born today, they've lived somewhere else. So when I talk about moving to a place where I don't know anyone, away from my family, from my food, and other things that compose the culture I grew up in, most people can relate and empathize with me, no matter what they look like. When I was typing some of the words that made it to this episode, I had Tori, my hairdresser, who is a white cis female, crocheting my dreadlocks. And we've talked about it before. We have this in common. We live today in a place that is different from the one we were born and grew up in. Did we have the same experience? No, of course not. But even if I was a white cis female from Iowa living in Denver, that would still be the case, right? The experience would not be the same because I am unique and so is Tori. Can I say that moving from South America to North America is a lot more drastic and therefore more traumatic than moving from Iowa to Denver? No, I can't. Because my uniqueness and Tori's uniqueness may have made her experience actually be more traumatic than mine. Is it making sense? While putting tags on things and grouping things is a human trait, I personally believe that we are right now being pushed to look at human diversity or singularity diversity versus trying to equate the experience of a certain group who may have historically experienced the world in a similar way. Similar is not equal, and it should not be treated as if it was. Will it make harder for us as leaders in corporations? Yes, potentially. But it might be the hard right instead of the easy wrong, and if that's the case, so be it. Let's roll up our sleeves and do the work, starting with ourselves, no matter who we are. It truly breaks my heart to think that maybe there are people out there thinking that they should be ashamed of being who they are. I've been there, and it's such a bad place to be. But it equally breaks my heart to think that maybe there are people out there thinking that their social location do not play a role in how they are treated by society. These two things can and should coexist. So my call to action for us today is, can you identify someone in your social circle, maybe in your team, that is very different from you, and find something that makes you similar? A shared experience, a shared background, a shared family structure, a shared whatever. Can you find that similarity and make it a point of connection? Just by doing so, just by acknowledging that similarity, I am confident we will become more inclusive leaders for everyone. That's all. Happy Black History Month. If you can think of someone who would enjoy this reflection, feel free to share it. And if you have any thoughts about it that you would like to share with me, just send me an email. Miguel@leadershiptrailmix.com. Thank you for listening, take care, and talk soon.